Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for Resident Evil 4 Afterlife. So, as always, I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the furry. To start off the furry, it's got zombies in it, and it's a Resident Evil movie, so there's some variety zombies in it. Moving on to the good and the bad. So, once again, starring Mila Jovovich, and I gotta say, this time around, the opening credits were a little slow. It felt like they were just kind of padding the runtime a bit, and I think that's because there's just not a lot that happens in this movie. Obviously, at the end of the third one, spoilers for that one, they revealed that there's a bunch of clones of her, and she's fully got all of her magic telekinetic powers. So they did a cool scene of her taking down that building with Wesker in it, and it was cool, but it felt like it was rushed. It felt like they were like, all right, yeah, no, we can't get out of the writing for this one, so we're just gonna, no, she takes out the building, she takes out these guys, she kills a bunch of those guys, she goes into the next thing, then she goes down the thing, and it's really cool, and then she gets killed, and oh yeah, actually there's other one's cool, and so like it just felt like they were just rushing through it to get to the part where they could nerf her or to nerf the fact that there's hundreds of her now, and they did. So I liked the hive explosion, like that blue, suction bomb or whatever you want to call it. That was kind of cool. But this movie kind of felt like, in a lot of like video games where you either have like a suit, like a Samus suit that's like super powered up, or you're otherwise like maybe Link from Breath of the Wild might be a more current example. But like you have the beginning where you're super powered and you have all the things and all the upgrades and everything else, and then something happens to where you lose all that and you just start down at square one and have to build back up all of your stamina, supplies, powers, whatever. Well, they literally did that in this movie, like magically. So she has her gun to the back of this dude's head, and he is somehow magically fast enough to get up from a seated position, turn around, and stab a needle into her neck that then immediately takes out her powers. And they somehow had this developed, but don't have a cure for the T-virus. Like, all right, sure. So we get that you made her too powerful in the other movies, and you don't want to have to continue dealing with that, so you just nerf it. And I was a little disappointed with that the first time I watched that movie, and I'm still a little disappointed with that today. So, yeah. I also find it hard to believe that he depowered her, and then she survived. And honestly, that the Matrix slow bullet time freeze thing where they go past, it almost looked a little fake. I know that it had to do with the lighting of the explosion of the hitting of the thing, but it almost looked a little too fake. So, but it was okay. It was neat looking, but the cut to however many months later and she's flying around, really? It's not going to show us how she survived that, or if she survived that. Is this the one clone that didn't go with them? And that's the thing that kind of bugs me, is that if she was the clone that didn't go with them, which I think would have been a better explanation for why she is still alive, because, that crash definitely would have fucking killed her without her powers. But nope, she's still alive, but also depowered, which doesn't make any sense. So, whatever. I do like that we finally get to see Claire, so Ali Larder's in this. I like her, so that's fun. I'm glad that she's, well, not finally in this, but that we get to continue to see her in this eventually. Also, I think it's funny that in this one, they've severely changed Alice's hair. It's a whole lot darker, black or whatever. I don't know which is Mila Jovovich's natural hair color, but I don't mind the change. I think she looks good either way, but there's not the entire, but in the third movie, we see the opening sequence of her waking up and going through, and then there's all these clones of Alice that have the blonde hair. And now we're supposed to believe that that wasn't her natural hair color, but they just went through the effort of dyeing the clone's hair that they are just going to immediately kill and throw out. But sure, whatever. But there's just flashback sequences and we're just not supposed to notice the hair? I don't know. It's weird. Also, I don't know, just this movie, not a whole lot happens. So, yeah. I'm going to talk about a few more things before getting into spoilers. So, Claire, she has a water fight scene, which is super badass, and I thought that was awesome, so I really like that. But it just seems like in this movie that the mouth tentacle guys are introduced or I think they're introduced in this one, and they don't explain them. Like, why are there a few zombies that have tentacle mouths? And in this one, it just seems like they pop out of nowhere, grab somebody in the head, take them away, and disappear into nothing. And it really seems like the filmmakers were like, okay, we don't want this character around anymore, but we don't want to have a huge fight sequence because we don't have the budget for that. And we don't want our main characters, or at least the characters we want to survive, we don't want them to die right now. So we're just going to have one mouth tentacle guy come out of nowhere, grab that character, take them away. Cool? Yeah. All right. Ooh. All right. Now so we're at a point where we're going another character to go away. But we don't have any other reason for them to die or go away. So let's have another mouth tentacle character come out. So it seems like the lazy writer's way of getting out of things. They also do not in any way properly or even tangentially explain the giant axe guys. That's another thing where I feel like not lazy writing could have explained why there ended up being some urgency to get out of the place because the zombies were getting in somehow. But instead of going with a logical reason like, hey, I mean, not Zombieland, but the Zombie Survival Guide movie, whatever it's called, with Brad Pitt, that one, the zombies build up enough where they start making it over the wall. Yes, those are running zombies, but in this one, they could have just had that, like, generally, as the pressure of so many zombies starts to break down the wall. I mean, they even did that in The Walking Dead, where, like, the chain link fence eventually started crumbling down. So that could have been the reason, but instead they're like, no, let's introduce giant axe guys that can survive small bullet wounds to the head for no reason and no explanation. I'm sure they were in the video game, but this movie needs to stand on its own, and that doesn't make any sense within the movie's universe that they built. There's also a scene where Alice puts a whole lot of trust in a cable, and don't believe that for a second that would have worked like that, nor do I believe the landing that she did. Now, don't get me wrong, it looked cool, but when you connect it with the journey that she took to get to that landing, I'm like, nope, don't buy it at all, and that takes away from the coolness. So, yeah, I did not care for this one. This one was probably my least favorite out of all of them because this is a movie where basically nothing happens. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like certain scenes in this. Like I said, the Claire scene was badass. I like Luther. I like that he jumps. Like, he's got that big-ass tall jump and everything. Like, that's cool. But, like, the plane that she's in the beginning, you cannot fly from wherever the fuck, California, Nevada, where Las Vegas, whatever. You can't fly from there to Alaska in that plane without refueling a bunch of times. And I don't know where you're going to find jet fuel or aircraft fuel in this environment and make it there. And then she flies from Alaska back down to California, I think? Like, LA or something? Wherever she flies to. Like, again, plane cannot reach that far that she is in. Whatever. But overall, so spoilers for just like the general plot points that happen. And like, so spoiler alert for kind of just some big chunks of what happens in the movie, which is not much. So she wakes up, or not, she doesn't wake up, but so she goes, has a really slow opening sequence. Her and all of her clones get to the hive. They do a bunch of cool shit, die in a bunch of bullshit ways, and then Wesker detonates it, kills all of them except for one who he depowers. Depowered one and him both crash into a thing, and she somehow, cut to black, is flying around looking for survivors in Alaska, lands, gets captured, and then, or tries to get captured, escapes, and then makes it down to whatever LA coast, sees some survivors on a building, lands that plane on the top of a building, and they're like, we thought you were coming to rescue us because there's a building called Arcadia, or there's a boat called Arcadia out there. And she's like, oh, that's what was transmitting the message because it was in Alaska. Yeah, that totally makes sense for the third one. So then they get in this building, and then big axe guys come and start breaking things down, and so they have to escape. So they go down through a tunnel to escape and lose people along the way. And then they make it to the boat, and then the boat, there's Wesker there, and he tries to blow them up again, but she saw it coming this time, so she went ahead before that to blow up him by putting the bomb that he used from the last one into the ship that she knew he was going to take. And that was the end of it. Where, of course, they set up the stinger for the next movie. But, like, that's all that happens. So, she lands in Alaska, then lands on a building. Building has some things coming in, so they escape. and they get into a big white room in this boat and have a couple of like, I'll admit that there was an interesting-ish slow-mo-ish fight there. Like that was kind of fun, but that's it. That's all that happens. And it's just not a lot. So I found this movie quite disappointing in both like logic and excuses and connecting to the other movies. So just a generally disappointing movie. Also, I don't know. It just bugs me. So definitely, I mean, you still have to watch this one if you're going to watch the whole series, but I think it would be fine to end it on the third one or on the fifth one. But don't end here. It does get better. The fifth one is much better. So, and I think that it makes a little bit more sense if you watch the fourth one before the fifth one. But yeah, so that's what I have for this one. If you are going to continue the series, fifth one is also a good stopping point, but not the fourth one. Third one is good stopping point. Fifth one is a good stopping point. But yeah, so yeah, that's all I have for this one. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you at the next one. Bye.